I'm on my phone. I'm trying to sign into my computer. I just got home. Wow, that's a big one because I'm 63. So that's grew up in New Jersey. My dad was transferred to Pennsylvania when I was a kid. My parents got divorced. My dad lived in California for a lot of my, like through junior high school, college. So I spent a lot of time, on the West Coast also. I went to Muhlenberg College. I was a communications and English major. For my work life, I went into marketing, and I was involved in a company that was called CD Now back in the day that Amazon ultimately ended up buying as their music search engine. So that was during the dot-com era, and then also the dot-com bubble. I got married and lived in Ireland, and I came back from Ireland in 2012, when my parents were not doing well. They were towards the end of their lives, so it was important for me to be back here. I went to work at Lafayette College. I oversaw the social media program when social media was still pretty much in its infancy, and left there. I'm going to say it was like 2015, 2016, and then just kind of worked independently. I'm now remarried. I live in Bethlehem, and I'm doing Indivisible is pretty much my full-time job, even though it's not paid. Yeah, it's funny because I was just out with some other organizers from different organizations because we just did a big food drive and panel discussion and a big press conference in Allentown in front of Ryan McKenzie's office. So we went out to lunch, and I was just saying this to someone. So after the election, the horrible election that has scarred so many of us, November 8th, 2024, I was very gutted. I was supposed to go away with some of my best friends. We were all working on Kamala Harris's campaign voluntarily. We were all supposed to go away to the Finger Lakes. We rented a house, because we thought we were going to have like a victory little getaway all together with our husbands and so on. So my friends crapped out because they were so freaked out that morning when Trump won. We thought that actually it'd probably take longer for the poll results to come in. And my husband and I went anyway. And while I was away, I thought, you know what? There's not another election for a while. So I can't, there's not much I can do there, but I had, been aware of Indivisible as an organization. I had seen Ezra Levin on Rachel Maddow several times, and, I knew it did really good work. So I thought, okay, well, that's all good information. I went online when I came back from that little, and it was actually beautiful weather. It was a beautiful time. My friends weren't there, but my husband and I had a great time and just kind of put it in the background. But came home and went on the national indivisible.org website and typed in, there's a tool, you can go in and say, find an Indivisible near me. I put in my zip code, there was nothing. Now, little did I know that they just collected like those searches, and shortly thereafter, I got contacted by the senior regional organizer, young man, lovely young gentleman, well, young compared to me, probably in his early 30s, Jake Fine, who's over Pennsylvania and Virginia. He got in touch with us. There was a Zoom call. I couldn't make it. We were in Chicago for going into Christmas. But then he said, don't worry, because I'll come up from Washington and I'll meet with you all. So he did in January. Ironically, it was just before the inauguration. I think it was the same week of Trump's inauguration. We met at my dining room table. He basically said, would you guys want to start your own Indivisible chapter, or in the Lehigh Valley? And we all said yes. And I was the one person, I think, who raised my hand and said, okay, I'll do this, or, I felt like I knew I had the skill sets because of other things I had done in my life, but also understanding, not marketing from the sales point of view, but like marketing from how do you put something together and grow a group, and the people in the group, I guess, agreed. So I became the lead organizer. The founders of Indivisible are a young married couple. They're young to me, I would say early 30s. And they were both Capitol Hill staffers. And when Trump won the first time, they went away. And I know this from their mouths because I went to the national, conference in Washington for leaders of Indivisible groups in early June, late May into early June, and they gave their baby to the mothers-in-law, and they went to a cabin in Maryland, and they just wrote this amazing document that they put on the internet, and the uptake of it was so huge that they kind of became a sensation in a way of just like how we fight back, kind of more or less that idea. From that document, Indivisible was formed. The national organization is amazing. It's so well organized. It is a lean, mean fighting machine, aimed at resisting the MAGA movement and the Trump era presidency. It has been a great experience. It's been very exhausting. Like I said, because I'm a full-time organizer, and it's a full-time job. And I also work with volunteer. I'm a volunteer organizer and working with volunteers. So it can be frustrating at times. And, and it's stressful because I'm working within a discipline. I find these times stressful, as many people do if we're not on the MAGA machine. So, there are times I'm really looking forward to. As of today, we had our last general meeting because our general meetings are the third Sunday of the month, and the one in December was just up against Christmas, so we're not going to have a general meeting. Right now, as of this last press conference and our last general meeting, which was yesterday, I have like some breathing room. So I'm really looking forward to that because, it's easy to start feeling a little burned out. And I'm a perfectionist, so like I want everything to be just so. Going into the new year, it's going to be really good, but it's exhausting work. Anybody who does it would say that. I love it, but it's exhausting. No Kings, it wasn't just Indivisible, but it was largely led and instigated, if you will, although instigated always sounds like a negative term. They saw the need to just have a couple, like a large event. And part of that is about the 3.5% rule, or kind of driven by that. But the 3.5% rule is that an academic had done research, and I guess overlaying, basic analysis of autocratic rebellions or resistances against autocratic leaders or governments. And she found that there was a pattern that when 3.5% of the population was willing to take to the streets, that's when there was a shift. And from there, you could call like general strikes, which have been used effectively, which, you just shut down a country because like nobody shows up for work. So the whole idea of No Kings is to get, masses of people out. So the first No Kings, I think, was like around 5 million people, or maybe it was 4 million, 5 million. That's what they estimated across the country. This last No Kings was 7 million. I think that was lowballed, but so be it. That it's only really 11 million people that we need in America to do that 3.5% rule. It's just everywhere. Like this last time, I think there was like almost, like over 2,500 different protests registered, and lots of them were just spontaneous too, so some weren't registered, but like you're seeing it all over the place. People in the streets, people at state houses, people in little towns lining their little, one 2-lane highway. So it gives other people conscious permission to participate and feel like it's okay. I have my First Amendment rights. We still have a constitution. I have the right to assemble. I have the right to free speech, even if it's against the President of the United States, or a resistance to his movement, which is MAGA. It's like really using our First Amendment rights. Damn it, nobody, we have we have those rights, and we're using them. Because if anything happened to us for using them, we have legal recourse, constitutional legal recourse, because yes, we are 100% allowed to assemble on public property, or public land, which includes sidewalks, or whatever, and we have 100% right to be vocally in vocal opposition to our government. So yeah, do I think it was successful? I think we got under his skin a little bit. And beforehand, if you remember, and it made me very nervous because I feel very responsible to the safety of the people, that were coming out for that, since our organization was leading it in Bethlehem. Mike Johnson, right, going into No Kings, was saying that we were, communists, that we hated our country, and really putting a target on us. I was terrified that violence might happen because, it's just like, come to Washington, it will be wild for January 6th or whatever. It only takes one lunatic listening to that kind of filth, which is not true. I love my country passionately. That's why I get teary-eyed, I mean, because I love my Constitution, and I love the whole genesis of our Constitution. Indivisible has been called a domestic terrorist organization. Everything, if you go on the site, every time I put out a mobilized invitation, we had marshals at our No Kings that are trained in passive, like nonviolent, just peaceful ways to calm things down if somebody's getting disruptive. We are so totally, completely committed to just the peaceful demonstrations to support our amendment rights that I think it's obvious the proof is in the pudding. It's very scary to them because it's like, oh my God, people are standing up to us. There is momentum building, like big time. So by the time that we have the next No Kings, I really believe we're going to hit that, over 11 million mark, and we're going to have hit the 3.5% mark. And if we need to call a general strike, there will be a general strike. But the momentum is on our side, so I know we're a success. I don't even have, it's not even a thought in my mind. And I can be pretty pessimistic, but I know, it's moving, the trend is moving in our direction. I myself was on ACA when I left, working, like in a salaried position at Lafayette College. Until I got married, I was on ACA. And then when I got remarried, my husband, of course, I'm on his plan. But so if I were still on ACA, I would be terrified right now. There's many members in our group that are self-employed. Somebody who's very active in our group, I was just talking to, just at our meeting yesterday. And with the tax credits ending, her health care is going to treble. She's, I think she's right around my age, so she's in her 60s, but she's not retired yet, and she doesn't qualify for for Medicare. And she said, I'm going to have to, I can't afford that. I'm independently employed. I can't afford that. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I would say, just for myself as a woman, at 63, my grandmother, I was born of two older generations. My grandmother could not vote until she was 30. And the idea that there is being floated through Russell Vought Project 2025 and a lot of the folks in the administration, where they're talking about having one vote for a family, meaning women not having the right to vote. In fact, there have been people within the Trump administration saying the worst thing that ever happened was when women got the vote. So let me tell you something right now. I will go to arms if they come for my vote. I'm not kidding. I will become a soldier. I don't know why. I've never fired a gun. I hate guns, but I will literally sign up and, defend my right to vote. So that's on a personal level. And I know most of the women in our group totally share that opinion. And then I would say, honestly, psychologically, the Trump administration, I think for a lot of us, or I think anybody who's reasonable, it's been a really taxing emotionally and mentally, because it's like turning back the clock. It's just so preposterous, all of it, and taking away so many rights and attacking so many different groups. The genie's out of the bottle. Everybody accepts, or normal, reasonable people accept the fact that there's people who have sex changes, and it's not a huge part of the population. People accept gay marriage. People accept interracial couples. We are used to our Hispanic neighbors. We love our Hispanic neighbors. They give like flavor and color and wonderful things to our communities. And now they're all in a state of paranoia. So, I think for so many people, what the Trump administration has done is really actually robbed us of just peace of mind, a sense of security, a sense of like my country is just and good and cares about its people. That alone is pretty bad. I was raised to feel patriotic, and I always grew up saying all through, especially from college on, that if I'm patriotic, it's to the Constitution of the United States. It's a living, breathing document. It was sheer genius when when the founders were coming up with ideas, and the whole world was ensconced in serfdom. You were born into a class, you stayed in a class. That was it. If your father was a stable guy, that's all your aspirations could be. And the Americans, were the revolutionaries, were talking about, you had the right to pursue happiness. I always say to people, it's like people in England or other places in Europe or around the world must have been like, huh? Are they smoking crack? Like, what are they talking about? What do you mean this happiness that you have the right to pursue? Like, what? Like, that's crazy talk, It was so revolutionary. It literally was revolutionary. I do feel like, I'm honoring my parents by honoring my patriotism, since they're not here. My parents were divorced. I was 8. So, I think around 1970. If you look at what women couldn't do in the 1970s, the 1970s was the most progressive era for women's rights. Of course, women got the vote in 1920. But my mother, as she was giving custody, my sister and I, because that's how it worked, eventually usually works that way now. In 1970, women, it's amazing if you just go Google it. You couldn't have a bank account without a husband. You couldn't get birth control. You couldn't without a husband. Well, and also we know Roe v. Wade happened, I think, in 73. So if she had gotten pregnant, she couldn't have had an abortion. I saw my mother, who was very smart, but having to go to work. And at that time, there were women couldn't do much. The laws themselves, you couldn't have a credit card. Can you imagine? You couldn't have a checking account. You couldn't have a credit card. This isn't like ancient history, So yeah. So the experience of having, pretty progressive parents, especially my father was like a, Harry Truman fan, JFK fan, that kind of, or not fan, but really believed in it. And FDR and the New Deal and all that stuff. So that was a huge influence. My father and I were really close, and we're always talking politics. And then, also seeing my mother's experience as a single mother. My dad wasn't a tyrant, of course, support and all that stuff, but it was those were the laws. We had somebody, because we have a veterans group, we had someone signed up for the panel discussion yesterday from the Veterans Brotherhood. And I hadn't heard, all the other speakers, I had sent them an email, a text, I had sent them, or left a voicemail message, and they all got back to me and confirmed all that stuff. I hadn't heard from the guy from the vets group, and I thought, well, maybe he's just thinking, that it's just implied that, of course I'm coming. So I called yesterday morning before our meeting and just said, hey, I just want to make sure you're showing up. And he, I won't name him, but he seemed a little perturbed and weird when I was as nice as could be. I was using my indoor really nice lady voice. And he said, because I'm, being respectful of him being, because he said he was wounded in Vietnam and so on. And, and I said, I want you to know my father was in World War II. My husband was a captain in the Air Force after college. I only have the highest regard for, the military. And I know that there are so many military people that are in need. And he said, well, he was going to enlighten me and my organization. And he proceeded to say that he read about us. And he wanted me to know that he was diehard. That was the language exactly. Diehard veteran or MAGA. Okay, 1 in 10. I think if I tell you some of the statistics, they're quite frightening. One that just pops off my head is 1 in 10 vets is on Medicaid, and about the same proportion are on SNAP benefits. And I was really, I was like kind of shaking inside, but I was, my brain was firing. And, I said to him, Ryan McKenzie voted for the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It became really clear to me that I don't think he, because I think people get in there, we know this, right? With algorithms and everything else in Fox News, he's serving people in need. And I admire and appreciate that. If it was a Democrat who was voting against my constituents, I would have a fit. It's not partisan. It's like, how dare you take away benefits to give them to the billionaires? And so I kind of had said that a little bit to him, to which he replied, well, I'll be praying for you. I think he was going to come and speak on the panel and try to sabotage it, honestly, because that's what it sounded like to me. And I said to him, I don't think this is a good fit, but he said that he would pray for us to get over our Trump derangement syndrome. And I don't even know where it came from, but I said, I will have you know that we're meeting in a church. And many of us, whether we're Christian or not, know the Sermon on the Mount and the tenets of Christianity. And it will be us who pray for you and your veterans, because your veterans are going to suffer because of MAGA. And then I just said, good day, sir. I don't know, something like that. But, and I hung up the phone. And thank God he didn't show up, because I was afraid he might show up and try to disrupt. But, that's basically, when I come across that kind of thing, I mean, I don't like get angry, but it's just like, you please do yourself a favor, don't listen to the media that you normally listen to. Go online. It's a big, huge bill. If it takes you a week, read it. Know what's in it. Because if you are empowered to serve a population that is going to be absolutely, injured by this one big, beautiful bill just to give money to the billionaires, you have a responsibility to them to know what's in that bill, And I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of tolerance for that. I'm sort of like intolerant of, I'm intolerant of intolerance. That's how I am. I think the big part of MAGA is it's like us. It's okay if it's happening to someone else. Oh, someone else is in pain? Oh, well, whatever. But they're going to realize really soon, and they already are, red states are being slammed more by the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the tariffs, the cuts to USAID. Those are they're going to feel it.
And so when Trump says things to people, this is the one thing that he can call everything a hoax and people may believe him. But when they, damn it, when they go to the checkout at the grocery store and they see how much things have increased, or they go to the gas pump, people are feeling it and they're going to be really hurting, and it's going to be too late. So together we can actually create a meaningful resistance of Americans who are the working class against the billionaires. So it's, like, join us now to stave off some of that hurt. We can turn this around. Like, we need you. And we need you to be invested in your own interest, because it is your own interest, whether you know it or not. It's coming like a freight train. I believe that Donald Trump is a would-be king. He wants to gold plate everything. He wants his name on everything. And so, kings are autocrats, right? Kings don't exist. I mean, like real kings. Now, I don't mean like, like in England, or something. They're just more figureheads. But like what we rebelled against for the American Revolution. So I think that Donald Trump, as a malignant narcissist, has those king-like delusional tendencies and wants the power. He does not want to be challenged. He really doesn't believe in democracy. You don't say, hey, Texas, just go gerrymander, in the middle of a 10-year cycle, because I want the votes, and because, he's afraid of a free and fair election. We know he loves Putin. We know, he loves South American dictators, nobody who isn't a dictator is going to take somebody and put them in a hellhole like CCOT in a country they didn't even come from, or return them to another country they didn't even come from, when America was built on immigration. Like, it's so absurd. And I should also want to say this: if you look at dictators, they have elections because they want to feel legit. The people love me. But they do things to make them, it's not democracy, but they do have elections even in Russia. But isn't it interesting that Putin always wins by such a huge majority? Or if you are, his, if you go against him, you're going to get Novichok or whatever, you're going to get thrown out a window. I'm going off on a tangent, of course, because I do. But Trump that is absolutely, whether he calls himself a dictator or not, it's the proof is in the pudding, and the behavior is there. So he is. Have you lost your mind? It's like the first thing that comes to, like, really. And you do not get to call yourself a patriot. Don't you dare call yourself a patriot. You know, like, did you never watch Schoolhouse Rock? Like, did you never have civics anymore? It's not even taught, but like, if people my age, like in fifth grade or whatever, it's like, like, have you lost your mind? Literally, like, we have the oldest, and we've had found out because it is so old, maybe it's weak, but Constitution in the world. We were the creator of constitutional democracy. How dare you? You don't get to call yourself a patriot. My father, Gene McDermott, was fought in World War II and was in the occupation of Germany. And my father fought fascists. I am the proud daughter of an anti-fascist. And the fact that they call us Antifa, anti-fascist, that's what it stands for. Like, it's this scary group, first of all, like as if it's like this big organization. It's not. It's anybody who's against fascism. Oh, pardon the expression, fuck yeah, I'm against fascism. And that makes me as patriotic as the day is long. And I would challenge anybody to find any shred in American history that would say that I am wrong. You assailed the Capitol. You destroyed the People's House. What better metaphor can we have for it than to take a backhoe and rip off the East Wing, which historically has been the soft part of the White House, as Michelle Obama made a point of saying, where the First Lady's office is, where I've gone. If you go as a citizen to take a tour of the White House, you go through the East Wing. That's where the tours originate. Where the Christmas tree stuff is, where all that kind of stuff, the soft part, the most human part of the White House was just decimated. And it's really a metaphor. So what I would say to them basically is, come to your senses. You have no right to call yourself a patriot. Don't you even think about it. You have absolutely no right. Just like know who you are and know that there's a day coming for you. History is coming for you, and it won't be pretty. And what you will be shamed and you will be shunned because you have acted so un-American that there's going to be a backlash, and the people will rebel, and the people will stand up, and the people will come to their senses, and we will prevail. And that's what I'd say. So watch out, because we're coming. I have felt that way at times, certainly. I've said many times, I think we have a nation of people that have PTSD from this. And like I said, moral injury, like a feeling of like when you see your government doing the most immoral things, like watching ICE raids and stuff, like little children being pepper sprayed, a clergy being beaten, it's horrific, and it's like a pain, and you can feel like you're in it. I have felt many times like I'm in a spiral, downward spiral, at moments. I just have a fighting nature, fighting Irish, I guess. But so I usually pull myself back. But I would say to anybody, election day a couple weeks ago was huge. The tide is turning. If you look at the granular data, whatever gains they had, which really scared me in the election of 2024 in November a year ago, was that there was a migration of young men to Trump, a migration of Black men to Trump, a migration of Hispanic, Latino men to Trump. And it basically, this election, like erased that, because now they've seen it for what it is. They were promised, good things like, on day one, the prices are going to come down. But then he turns around and he gives tax cuts to billionaires. Like they need it, right? Taking away health care from people, taking away food from people. He ran on, Epstein and pedophile and blah, blah, blah. And, he's guilty. I'm sorry, whether he, I don't even want to go there. We know what kind of character he has. But there is absolute hope. The trend is on our side. The election showed something really quite remarkable. 2 women governors, in places where it could have gone very easily the other way, winning like historic, margins. It's really exciting. What also is really exciting, and I haven't, because I've been so busy, and now I have a little rest time coming, so I really want to go back and read more about it. But even Texas gerrymandering may blow up in their face, because they were all like, Hispanics are on our side. Guess what? Sorry. Gavin Newsom has done an awesome job with Proposition 50, which like won by there's plenty of Republicans in California, but like won by a landslide, and it's not going in their direction. It's going in our direction. And you mark my words, the momentum is building. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better, because they're going to need to like hold on tighter and all that kind of stuff. But, at the end of the day, people are going to prevail, and we are or the trend line is going in our direction. So, and I know it's going to continue to grow that way, because I think people are waking up because they're feeling the pain. Seek out community, even if it's not getting involved in Indivisible or even something political action. Get involved in something that puts you in touch with people on your block, people in your neighborhood. Um, you know, really reach out, like really work at creating more, getting yourself more engaged and like a part of knowing people in your community. I think that's a huge part of it. For me, exercise is a big thing, because it's like, it's, kind of clears your mind. And it makes you feel strong. And when you feel strong, you feel more powerful, I think. Um, and I think generally just look at how hard so many people are working, and there's so many groups. It's not just Indivisible, even though Indivisible is big and doing a lot. There's groups all over the country that are, that are all working for the common good and for democracy, for the sake of democracy, and also look at the things that, the accomplishments that we have made. And that includes like No Kings, how many people turning out. Look at ICE. When I get really freaked out at see the atrocity of ICE, I also see really courageous people that are like, using their First Amendment rights and yelling shame, 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 shame. They're getting guns pointed at them. But like are just, and it can be older women, like people in the streets, clergy, whatever. Just focus on the stuff that you see like in the resistance that's peaceful and good, and it just gives me so much hope. And again, look at the election results from a totally nothing election in Pennsylvania. We retained our judges. There was a huge push for that. It worked in our favor. There's more and more there's things to be hopeful for. I do think that this Epstein file situation, no matter what Trump is saying now, because he'll do whatever, I really think that America doesn't have a stomach for it. Who knew that Marjorie Taylor Greene would be like my new hero? Like, who thought? I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy talk. If somebody had said to me, but for whatever reason she's doing it, whether she wants to run for president or whatever it is, like, I see that as major movement. Seriously, or even Lauren Boebert stood up to him and said, no, I'm going to I'm going to vote to release the files. There are, there's cracks. There's like, we should welcome cracks because it lets the light in. And things are starting to fissure and crack, and the light's getting in. It just is. I know it is. I'm a little worried, if I'm really frank, that we're seeing, we have a two-party system. One of the parties is authoritarian, lock, stock, and barrel, and the other believes in democracy, but that party is also pretty not popular. So it does worry me in that regard. Like, we may have a period of struggle that may last, for a period of time. Like, I like history, so I kind of look at things in that term. I really believe what's going to happen, honestly. For someone your age, I think you should have a lot of hope, a whole lot of hope. Just quick history lesson, which is, FDR, Great Depression, came in, New Deal. The whole idea of the New Deal was this idea of like government being a problem solver, helping people, not, giving handouts, but, like Joe Biden would say, like giving a leg up, just helping someone get their foot on a ladder, or like, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg said famously, it's like, take your like foot off my neck, So, and that had continued. Eisenhower, Republican, he expanded the idea of the New Deal. You go all through the 60s, even Richard Nixon expanded, or built upon the idea of the New Deal. The EPA, he created the EPA because rivers were catching on fire because there was so much pollution. Even he realized, like, hey, maybe the government needs to step in here, right? And then it was Ronald Reagan, and you could look this up, talk to historians, but Ronald Reagan saw the beginning of dismantling the idea of the New Deal, and taking things away that were supportive to people's lives and their better health and their, and their well-being, whether it's educate, all of it, So for someone your age, I would say, and even somebody my age, even though I'm pretty old, like, it's, I think what's going to happen is, and maybe this is what needed to happen, I think there's going to be systems failure. They cut all the legs off stools with Doge and all that stuff. I think there's probably going to be a market crash. A lot of really people that know that better than me have been predicting it may be something like, along the lines, because of the AI bubble and all that stuff, of 1929. I don't want to live through that. I'm close to retirement. My husband's close to retirement. But so it's probably going to get painful for a while. But I think it's going to be this new age of enlightenment, that we went to the cusp, just like Germany. Like, Germany is so progressive, but they came out of like Nazi, like it's crazy stuff, like the most, like, hard to even like express how awful the Nazis were, right? But that we can reimagine ourselves, and we'll have to, because a lot of our government's going to be gutted. But in crisis, that I truly believe this, in crisis is opportunity. And I think new networks, new ways of people working together, a new reimagined America. People are going to wake up and realize that, the government can help. We can create this better, new imagined world. We're the richest country on earth. Of course we can. We could have always done it. This is a self-inflicted wound with MAGA. But I think people are going to, I really do. And I think young people are going to be a big part of that, of like nonsense, and I truly am optimistic. Maybe it's a good day. I don't know, but I really, with the things that have been happening lately and just my understanding of history, I think I think good things are coming down the road. There's going to be pain. There's definitely going to be some pain in there. And I don't know how long that's going to be, but I think that from that, it's like I hate using cliches, but it's like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I really believe that. And that we'll come back with a different, reimagined democracy that will be even stronger and even better to its constituents than what we've ever experienced in our lifetimes.